Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Bleav in Colts podcast.
Welcome back to Bleav in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my guy, Jerraud Powers. Jerraud, that was a crazy weekend of football all the way around the board, not just for the Indianapolis Colts, but the NFL in general. What was your general take of the NFL games this week?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. Some games came down to the wire. Some people mad already. Some people happy already. So, it's typical NFL football, and the storylines are about to start getting going. But I thought it was exciting, especially the games that came down overtime, field goals, there's missing. I thought it was exactly what we needed for week one as fans of football.
Absolutely. A lot of really, really close games that people did not expect to be close. Not just Colts versus Texans, which we're going to get to in just a moment, but the Steelers and Bengals, where the Steelers end up winning, right? In overtime, they were able to actually get a field goal in that game to win. And the Giants and the Titans came down to a very close end game right there where somehow the Giants come away with a victory. There was a lot of great games in there. Besides the Colts and Texans, which game did you think probably was one of the better ones that was played?
That's a good question. Right now, so far, I'm gonna still say the Bills and the Rams games is my favorite of all of them so far. Just to start the season off, to see a good team really, back up the preseason hype, I guess, with the Bills, and then see Rams, defending champions, kind of struggle a little bit. So it's kind of cool to see them get better and better week in, week out. But I was flipping back and forth with the Steelers and Cincy game, and Cincy, it looked ugly for Cincy. Joe Burrow, 4 interceptions. The Steelers defense looked phenomenal, and then you look at the score, and it's still a 3-point game, 6-point game. So they had a crazy end to their game that it was kind of exciting to watch as well, because you just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, and speaking of that Steelers game, that might have been what some of my followers would call a blood game, because they may have lost their best player on the entire team with J.J. Watt possibly tearing a pec. That's
not to cut you off. I'm sorry. That's crazy. When I was watching the game and the play he got hurt, you could kind of read his lips and say he tore his pec. So it's kind of crazy to see that.
Oh man, that's awful. I've seen guys do that in the weight room, and it's a terrible thing. Well, before we get into the game, I just want to remind everybody that BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code Bleav50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, obviously, there is a lot to clean up, especially with the Indianapolis Colts offense. We'll get into the offense later, being that defense is like your serious that's your cup of tea. I want to know, what you think of how the Colts defense performed in yesterday's matchup.
I'm not going to say they performed bad. I'm not going to say they performed great. It was kind of a decent game, a decent start. Yeah, we left tight end open a couple times, and that's kind of the weaknesses when we're talking about cover 3 scheme. Those are the weak areas, as the tight end up the seam, but it looked like a little communication issue on those 2 touchdown passes. But other than that, when you go back and you just look at the facts, man, you hold them for under 300 yards total. They go for 299 total, 77 yards running the ball on the ground, and then only 240 passing. So, yeah, we need to clean some stuff up. But when you look at the stats, those are the type numbers you kind of want to see at the end of the day. That means there wasn't many explosive plays. I thought Stephon Gilmore looked phenomenal. I thought Kenny Moore had a couple bad calls against him, but he looked great in coverage as well. So I thought the defense, it might not been the greatest of games because we didn't see the turnovers and the splash plays, and our best player is still not out there. But I thought it was a solid start as far as going out there and want to kind of keep the offense at bay. I mean, Houston didn't look bad, man. They look like a well-coached football team. They look like they're progressing compared to what they looked like the year before. So, I mean, that game right there was a little tougher than I expected.
I seen when I was watching, I knew that, this team, it didn't have a lot of superstar players on it, but I knew that they were, like you said, a well-coached team with a bunch of guys that could do their job. I expected the Texans to score some. I mean, I put them at 17 in my prediction. So I was close to what they were going to score.
I think you said 21. You almost hit it.
Yeah, it was close. It was close. But what surprised me, in all honesty, for our defense, which is a pleasant surprise, which I can't say a whole lot. There was a whole lot of pleasant surprises in this game for me, was that the Colts run defense did so well, right? The Colts on average only gave up 3 yards a carry on the day.
Right.
That is
Football.
that is definitely winning against the run, right? Especially when you know that this is a team that's going to try to run the ball when they have, this special rookie running back that has had so much acclaim early on, got a lot of touches already, and they came out there and they performed very well. I agree with you. I didn't like that pass interference call on Kenny Moore. I didn't see him actually grab the arm. I thought his hand was open and out. I could see how a referee would see that and think he was holding the arm back, but it didn't look like he was actually doing that. I think that was just a bad call.
Yeah, bad call, bad position for the ref that made the call or whatnot. I just wish the NFL would kind of let wide receivers and DBs play fair at the end of the day. I think everybody knows it's an offensive league. Most calls are going to go the offensive way, but I mean, if you only knew how hard it is to play DB in this league, some of that stuff, man, you just kind of got to let it go just because they're already at a disadvantage anyway. But I thought Kenny Moore, even though some people might complain, you had 2 penalties or whatever the case may be, I thought he had a solid game in coverage, though, and tackling.
Yes, definitely. I thought that for the most part, like you said, I mean, you hold them under 300 yards total for the day, and that's good. That's very good for a defense. Thank you for watching Jerraud Powers and I here on Bleav in Colts, part of the Bleav Podcast Network. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you're notified next time we upload a video or go live. And don't forget, you can hit that little red share button. Help us out a lot with exposure and getting our stuff out to more fans. Now, let's get back to the video. However, offensively, when you have over 500 yards, you should score more than 20 points.
that was going to be my take on today and about the game. Yeah, we didn't start the way we probably wanted to start, but, we talked about it. We talked that everything was going to run through JT. Of course, at the start of the game, teams are loading the box. Teams know who getting the ball, so it takes a little time, a little rhythm for JT to get going. And as the game went on, you saw holes starting to open up. You see JT starting to run free a little bit more and do what he does. And I thought Matt Ryan did a good job in being a game manager. And then when it was time for him to make some throws, he made the throws that we needed to get back into the game. Michael Pittman, we talked about it, man. I mean, he put his foot down. He stepped up as, hey, I'm the guy. Feed me the ball, and I'll put this wide receiver group on my back, until somebody else can kind of step up and carry the load. But I think the gist of everything, after looking back on it, you saw exactly what you kind of expected to see. You just wish that we would have kind of took advantage of some of the goal line opportunities. Like I didn't like the 4th down call down there in the goal line when we went Wildcat. I didn't like that at all. If we're going to run the ball and we're down there, let's give it to our best player, and not to take anything from Hans. But other than that, like you said, yeah, we needed to be sharp in some areas. But when you look at the stats at the end of the day, and those are the facts. I mean, over 500 yards on offense, it looked kind of simple and easy, but when you rack all those easy throws that Matt Ryan is making and guys are getting extra yards, I mean, those type things add up. So I think that it's a lot of positives, even though we didn't see, I guess, the sharpness that we expected to see.
Going back to that Wildcat call, from a defensive perspective, there's no quarterback out there. You got running backs.
Well, Matt Ryan's at the wide receiver position.
Come on, right? When you're sitting there looking at that, is the front 7 basically just firing at the closest running back? Is that like a green light to just go get the running backs?
As a defense, you practice for that. I'm pretty sure they had a specific check or call for the Wildcat situation, because it's not the first time we've seen Hans do this before. So you go over all those type of things as a defense. So I'm pretty sure when we came out in that offensive set, it was a specific check defensively that was ready for that. And we know that as well. We know that the defense is going to check and do all those things. It just wasn't blocked up correctly. I thought it was like 4th and 3. I thought it was too long for that play. Now, if it was a 4th and 1, 4th and goal on the 1 yard line, something like that, maybe. But if it's 4th with at least 3 to go and we're going to run the ball, I would rather JT be in the game, or JT at the Wildcat position, and him taking that carry instead of Hans. Even though I thought Hans had a good game, though, he showed what he can do at the wide receiver position and his touches. But at that point, we're talking about a bruiser. I mean, JT all day.
Absolutely. Speaking of Jonathan Taylor, you talked about earlier. I mean, he's the best player on the offense. He goes out there and he just dominates. He 6 yards a carry today, or yesterday, and really put the team on his shoulder throughout the entire game. Really, went out there multiple times. There were situations where you thought for sure he was stuffed at the line or behind the line and still found ways to get positive yardage. Do you think this is a situation where the Colts will continue to lean on Jonathan Taylor, heading into next week's game against Jacksonville and on until, obviously some of these mistakes can be cleaned up?
Man, we're leaning on Jonathan Taylor every week. Every single week, as long as Jonathan Taylor is healthy, expect him to get 25 to 30 touches a game, 20 to 25 touches a game. I mean, I know he had 30 carries or whatever it was this past week. You don't want that to continue, but just touches, period. He's going to touch the ball 20, 25. Some games, if he needs 30, he'll do 30. It's just like yesterday. If he don't get those touches, I mean, what are we doing offensively? Like some games, it's just like, no, if he got the game going, let's give it to him every time until they stop him. So I expect every week the game plan to be everything's going through JT. And if he continues to have the success that he's been having the past 2 years, that is going to allow more one-on-one situations for Pittman, more one-on-one situations for Alec. I know everybody's probably worried about Alec a little bit. First game as a rookie, they had one camera view where he took his helmet off and he was getting attended to on the sideline, and you can kind of just see the big eyes a little bit. And that happens, man. First game, a lot of excitement. I mean, you're playing against the best. That's what we talked about last pod. I mean, it's your first go at the best in the world, man. And these guys was ready to go. He had a couple opportunities. I'm pretty sure he wished he could have took advantage of, but hey, learning curve. I would rather it happen now than happen late in the year. So I still like our group going forward. 17 had a couple big catches late in the game. 16 had a couple opportunities as well. So we had guys open. We had guys in the right spot. We just had a couple miscues, on the offense, to where if those plays happen, if Alec catch that touchdown pass, if 16 hold on to that ball in the back of the end zone, I think our conversation will be a little different about the offense, than it is now. So I'm still positive going forward on what these guys can do.
Yeah, the Alec Pierce hit where he gets sandwiched, and then the helmet-to-helmet connection, and then the personal foul. He's on the sideline. We noticed later in the game, he's still on the sideline. He's got his helmet. So I'm assuming he passed the concussion protocol because they would take your helmet away,
Yeah,
right?
take your helmet until you pass it. Yep.
Yeah. So he must be good. We don't have to worry about him in concussion protocol. Just for those of you who are worried about that, I just wanted to give you that information that we saw during the game. Alec did drops. I mean, he had rookie moments in this game, right? He did. Dulin didn't secure that pass.
It's a good play by that defender, but
yes, it was.
Got to secure that one. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. Right there. He had it. He left it down there, in his lap rather than bringing it up and securing it. And
that's what I mean by securing. Like, he had the catch made, but he got to know that the defender is going to continue to try to make a play on that ball.
Absolutely. Speaking of great plays by defenders, boy, Jerry Hughes oh my goodness. He come off that, jumped up, tipped the pass to himself. And I'm telling you, I'm watching that. If he had not done that, that's a touchdown. There was nobody in front of Jonathan Taylor on that screen pass.
And you talked about it, just mentioned it earlier. You was like, hey, man, the Texans don't got really, a lot of superstars, but a lot of good football players. And look, Jerry Hughes has been one of the best pass rushers in the league for years now, ever since he's been with the Bills and left the Colts when he got traded or whatnot. He's been, a guy that's always been making plays. So to see him get a pick, get a sack, almost get a strip, recover his own fumble and all that. I mean, these guys had some good players on that field, man, that knew how to play good football. So it was definitely a good challenge, and it seemed like Houston is definitely heading in the right direction and getting those guys back on the level that they used to be.
Excuse me. Wow.
Bless
Matt Ryan had 4 fumbles. I think 3 of them were center quarterback exchange issues.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that fans need to worry about in the future, or is that something that got fixed on the ride home?
Yeah, that got cleaned up on the ride home, I'm sure. Matt Ryan that's probably one of the things that he's not happy about at all, is those little miscues, because that's all. That affects the timing, that affects, everything in the offensive play when you're not, getting the exchange the correct way from the center and the quarterback position. So I expect that to get cleaned up. That won't be an issue going forward. That should definitely get cleaned up, and we should see that Jacksonville this next week.
So with all the miscues and mistakes that the offense did, as a defensive player, is there ever a time when a defensive player feels like, hey, you know what, I should go over there to the offensive side and give some words of encouragement when they're just having a really bad day and can't seem to get things going?
Yeah, it can happen, especially when you if you got the team chemistry and the team bond and the leaderships that do that naturally. I mean, if you watch that Bills game on Thursday, that game didn't start so hot for the Bills offense. And then all of a sudden you see the Bill defense come in the game and they're getting turnovers, and you see the offense energy just change just off of what the defense was doing. So I'm pretty sure there was some words of encouragement going back and forth just to help each other out. And I'm sure it's the same thing that's happened on our sideline as well. The one thing that you can't do as a player on either side of the ball is criticize the other side. You can't get frustrated and show it in the heat of the moment, because everybody know that everybody's out there is trying their best to do their job the best way that they can in order to get a win. So you don't want to see people criticizing each other from either side of the ball. But I'm pretty sure with some words of encouragement, trying to get each other ready to go when they step out on the field. So I think it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one player, the complete reverse. Okay, we talk about how this Colts offense was not good the first 3 quarters. I mean, they were down 17 points with 11 minutes left in the game, right? That's not a good position to be in. But there was one player that was actually playing very good on the team the first 3 quarters of the game, and then the fourth quarter and overtime really stunk it up on the field, and that was our kicker, right? Rodrigo Blankenship. He was kicking the ball into the end zone on kickoff. He was making his field goals, and then 3 kicks back to back to back, out of bounds on a kickoff, out of bounds on a kickoff, and then shanked it hard to the right on the game-winning field goal. What what are your thoughts about Rodrigo Blankenship and the situation that he went through yesterday?
The kickers have a tough job. I will say that they do have a tough job, and it's a lot of eyes on them now. You see what's going on in the league right now. I'm pretty sure if it happens 2 weeks in a row, you'll start seeing kickers kind of going to other teams, getting fired, or whatever the case may be. But when guys work so hard, you expect kickers to make kicks that they should make, and those kicks that Blankenship guy, he's a talented kicker. I mean, he's been talented ever since his college career at Georgia. So we know the guy has talent. It's just about execution at the end of the day, because there's no other, I guess, faults that you can kind of, put that on, unless it's a bad snap, bad hold. But it looks like everything was kind of in place, and you got to kind of nail that execution. But what's funny is, you look around the league, and, I always, brag or joke with people that DBs are the most talented group as far as athleticism in the world. And then you look at the Chiefs, and Eric Reed Jr. Is kicking off and kicking extra points, and he's the starting safety. And he's kicking them out of the end zone. He's kicking, he's just doing things. So I was like, all right, Blankenship, you miss a couple in practice. I'm pretty sure it's a DB that's dying to get on the field that might make a kick or two. So we might have to look into that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we had a safety that was punting when the day after our Sanchez went down with his injury, and he was punting, but he wasn't punting well. Right. He was punting okay, like better than your average guy, but not pro wise at all. But yeah, there's definitely guys out there. And there's a lot of talk. Fire Blankenship now. You don't fire someone over one bad game, right? I mean, that's not something you do.
Nah, not unless it's something that's been going on all training camp, all practice. You're missing them, unless it's something like that. No, but the next opportunity he gets, he's gonna have like that. I guess that rope get a little shorter and shorter once you missing them when it counts. So, I don't think he'll get fired after the first game. But if it happened the second game, I'm pretty sure that conversation or that hot seat will start getting warm a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we even saw it back a few years back when we had the best to ever do it, and he was missing, right? When Adam Vinatieri, near the end of his career, started having issues. It took a while, like about 6 games, but that conversation finally came up and the move was made, right? So with Blankenship, he's not on that tier. As you said, that rope is a lot shorter than that situation. What are some things that the Indianapolis Colts, if you were the coach right now, that they would begin practicing this week? Not just I understand that you're practicing to prepare for Jacksonville. Is there anything when you have a game like you had on Sunday, is there stuff that you practice to clean up, or you just that's gone, we're moving on?
I mean, you're going to move on for sure. 24-hour rule. I mean, at the end of the day, you didn't lose the game. You didn't win it. You tied it. It is what it is now. So now we got to watch the film, make our corrections, and move on. But the one thing that I think coaches around the league, including ours, is going to continue to do these first few weeks is preach the fundamentals. Like I said, this is the first time a lot of these guys are, going against, like guys, number 1 caliber guys. So the game is a lot faster once the season starts. It's not preseason anymore, so the speed is a little different. So you might see missed tackles here and there. You might have a communication issue just because you're not, I guess, getting the play call out in time. And it's not players. I'm pretty sure the coaches had some miscues on the sidelines just from a communication standpoint that might affect the guys on the field as well. So you're just trying to clean up all the things that you can really control, all the things that you can control on a day-to-day basis, and everything else will play out the way it's supposed to play out.
What are your thoughts watching this team offensively at the wide receiver and tight end position right now in week 1? From what I was looking at, I was seeing guys, it seemed like there was separation and stuff happening. There was just, mistakes, drop balls and things like that. There's still Plenty of, I think, talent at wide receiver and tight end. We just they need to clean some of those small things up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the group showed that they can play. I think the group showed that, within this system they can get to their spot to get to where they need to get to. Like I said, if we catch a couple of the balls that we dropped or overthrow or whatever the case may be, our conversation is completely different about the offense. So it's just about cleaning up when your opportunity comes, taking advantage of it, being where Matt expects you to be, just doing the little and the right things. And I think everything else will play out. I mean, when you watch Matt Ryan play yesterday, even though we were down and it looked like things weren't going, the way that we wanted them to go, I respected the fact that it seemed like he stayed with the plan. He stayed within his routine. He wasn't trying to do anything out of his ability, to force things or to, put the team in a deeper hole by taking a chance here. It seemed like he just knew if we just execute a little bit better, we'll get back into this game. And then when you watch that fourth quarter and you watch the ball coming out fast, the ball coming out quick, people making the tough catches, now the defense is kind of trying to play coverage now, and then we're giving it right back to JT and he's hitting another hole. It balanced itself out once the game got going and guys, I guess, started to feel a little bit more comfortable. We're just going to have to find guys that's going to be willing or be able to make the big catches when they count in a contested situation, those type of things. And I think that'll come. But like I said, if we catch a couple of those balls and, a couple of those plays go the other way, our conversation is a little different this week about the offense than, what it is now. We just started slow, and that's been our knock, for the past 7 years or 8 years or whatever the case may be. We started slow again. We're just happy we didn't get a loss because of our slow start this time.
Yeah, definitely. At least that curse is over with. A tie is not a loss, right?
Till we look back on it week 14, like, damn, that tie is going to, keeping us from being in this position or that position. So we hope it don't come back to hurt us.
Well, a tie could also get you in the playoffs or not get you in the playoffs, right? So, that's a big deal. Right now they're leading the division because of a tie and instead of a loss. So, which is a weird thing to say. This channel is proudly sponsored by TheBackroomCollection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autographed pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts signed pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. Moving back to the offense with the offensive line. Left tackle was a musical chair position yesterday. If you didn't notice, I did. Matt Pryor started the game, then Ryman came in, then Pryor come back in. They kept flipping between the guys. What does that say about that position and the guys that are there?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if somebody were getting, banged up or needed a blood. Like, I'm not sure what was the situation going on, but I do know Matt Ryan was under duress a little bit, in that game. So I was expecting our O-line to be a little bit, better in pass protection a little bit. But, like you said, first game, maybe they're trying to figure out rotations, who plays the best together. But you normally don't see, your left tackle being subbed in and out, like that. So that's kind of a concern for me going forward. I wonder what's the situation with that.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like you said, it could have been just, maybe Pryor got banged up. He come out. He had to put Ryman in for a few and then got banged up again later because it happened twice where that happened. So that's a concern. And no one asked him. That's the thing, why wasn't, Reich asked about that during the post-game presser? That's something that seems like it would be an important thing to ask about.
Right.
I don't think we had any injuries in this game.
I don't remember seeing any. It's always something that can pop up. But I don't remember seeing anything that could have been like, a guy that's about to miss significant amount of time. But there's always stuff that pops up. But it was a good thing. I think everybody came out clean.
That's always a positive, especially with this team. In recent years, it seemed like every time you play a game, you got 3-4 guys on the list, right? The next day. So this has been a very positive season / preseason thus far in that aspect for the Indianapolis Colts. Oh my goodness. Well, your overall thoughts for the game. I know that we've talked about the offense, we've talked about the defense. Actually, I'm going to move that around a little bit. Have you been in games where in a game like situation like yesterday, like early, you got a young, brand new, fresh team, and they're having problems with connection? Could you maybe take us back to a situation like that in your time playing football?
Uh, if I had to say, um, I don't know if I had a situation. I know defensively, when I got to Arizona, we were young. I was the oldest in the room, and I was on my 5th year. And I think Patrick Peterson was like year 3. Tyrann Mathieu was year 1. Tony Jefferson was year 1. Like, I had a real young group. And I remember communication was like one of the main things we were concerned about at the start of the season, just because a couple of the guys just weren't used to that level of communicating and having a responsibility to kind of tell someone else what they have to do as far as checks or calls or whatever the case may be. So I remember going that preparation week, coaches was like overly emphasizing, to our secondary group about how we got to communicate, because they didn't trust the young guys just yet. So it was a lot of onus put on me. It was a lot of onus put on Rashad Johnson, who was also a 5th-year safety at the time. So I remember the feeling during the week, but we never had that issue within the game. Everybody was always on the same page. So
Do you see that more often, where the offense is more kind of, having issues, doing the small things as compared to a defense? I mean, I understand there's like small things, like for defense, you have like tackling, I
mhm.
guess, fundamental tackling issues, things of that. Is it more common to see those fundamental lacks in on the offense than the defense?
I think when it comes to the offense, what slows them down a little bit or what make them have mistakes is every offensive player is like thinking. Defense, everybody's just reacting. Defenses are, it's easy to, I ain't gonna say it's easy to learn a defensive system, but it's not as hard as learning a complex offensive system, to where you got multiple checks, you're reading things, you got to be on the same page with this guy, you got to talk to this. Like, it's so much going on an offense on every different level, to where on defense, you make one simple call. I might not have to say a word to a defensive lineman or a linebacker. It might not have to be any communication, just because of the simpleness of the call or the responsibility. Where on offense, every single play, everybody's talking and everybody has to be on the same page. So when offenses start the season, unless you got this veteran group that's been in the system for years, and it's clockwork. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, it looks like clockwork. But where your core guys know the system like the back of their hand. They've had the same coach, for the past 6 years or however long. So with us, it's what's slowing us down or making us make a little mistakes here and there is probably because guys are thinking. They're trying not to mess up. They're trying to be in the right spot. They're trying to remember where to go and things like that. You have a young group. Even Matt Ryan, not saying that he's a young guy, but he's in a new system for the first time. So he might be a little half second late on things or remembering things or trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I think when you got a new group, far as from your core, when it comes to either side of the ball, you're going to have those, I guess, issues in earlier in the year, because a lot of times it's your first time seeing or going through or experiencing something with a guy to where you haven't even had this happen yet, within training camp, within the preseason game. Oh, this scheme hasn't popped up yet. It's the first time we've seen it, or the first time I've heard, or whatever the case may be. So you would think next week we will look a little faster. The week after that, we're going to look even more faster. Just guys getting more comfortable and knowing their roles and knowing exactly what to do.
Speaking of that, what's your level of concern right now with the team in general?
I'm not. I know we were supposed to beat the Texans. I know that. I know we were supposed to beat them. I was having a Twitter exchange with Glover Quinn, and he was talking like for them that it feels like a win just because they wasn't expected, to win. And then you look at the Colts, that we're considered a good team. People got some high expectations for us this year. But even though it's disappointing that we ended that as a tie, as I guess ugly as our offense started for 3 quarters or whatever the case may be, the fact that we were able to come back and be in position to win the game, I'm looking at it as a positive with all these new faces, and Jonathan Taylor didn't even get a preseason snap. And this is his first time doing a wide receiver room. We don't know who's going to step up. It was a lot of questions going into this game, and for them to find a way to, get some magic going, get some energy going late, that might carry on to the next week and the next week and the next week. So if I was concerned and I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest number that I can be concerned with, I'd probably say 4, 3. It's still early. I thought we still played some good football and some situational stuff to where we really needed it. I know I wish we would have started faster, but to see the guys click and find ways to get back in the game to where I thought it was over as well, that's a positive sign as well.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. All right, through 3 quarters of this game, the Colts did not play well enough to even tie this game, let alone win it. Right. So for them to end up walking out with a tie, obviously I have to take it, but I kind of feel like I almost didn't deserve it.
I am too. I'm a little disappointed as well, but I'll be if we look the same versus Jacksonville, I'll be really concerned. So there you go. I'll wait to answer that next week.
I do agree with you about the whole. They finished the 4th quarter and overtime pretty strong. They looked pretty good. They looked to have cleaned up a few mistakes outside, obviously, as we talked about the kicker situation. If they can carry that to next week, that will be a very positive note for us, and because we're going to need them to start playing very well and clicking on all cylinders, because obviously they're not thinking ahead of next week, but the week after that is a pretty darn good team we have to play, so we got to get things fixed for this week especially. Any final words you want to talk about before we end this show?
Nah, but I do think we'll get better though. I'm with you. I think next week it'll look better, but it's gonna be a tough game. I mean, Jacksonville is no pushover by any stretch. Their defense looked sharp, versus the Commanders and Carson Wentz and the roller coaster that he took the Washington Commanders on Sunday. So I think it's definitely gonna be a tough game on Sunday as well.
Absolutely. All right. So we will be back this Thursday to break down the preview for that specific game. So make sure that if you're listening to this on whatever place that you listen to podcasts, go ahead and subscribe and download it, share it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, share it as well. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That was Jerraud Powers. Thanks again for coming. This was Bleav in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. And as usual, have a good one. Go Colts.
Do you believe?